Hello everyone, pardon me while I get the glove on. This time I'm going to record my video without freezing my hand. It's Wednesday, February 11th, 2015, around 7:40 a.m. Out walking the big guy, and let's see, today I thought I would say a few words about an interesting conversation I had at work yesterday, now for something completely different. So whenever I tell people what I do, it always degenerates into a splitting hairs over terminology discussion. SEO, word of mouth, public relations, earned media, all this stuff is generally the same thing, which is avoiding paying for advertising to get your message out as a marketer or advertiser who has something to accomplish and needs to broadcast that over a large network of people. And I took the point with my coworker Elizabeth that really, whenever that happens, I just tell people I'm in marketing. I don't get into SEO or any of that other stuff. It's hard to even make the division with online marketing anymore because the world has gone digital and online. And you know, what is marketing these days if it's not digital and online? I guess there's still some people out there who only get their media through broadcast television, but even that's gone digital, and you need a digital decoder to get it. Not that it turns it into a browser to you know, have interactive messaging, but still, nonetheless, that's how much the world has changed. And I talked with her about just my view of networks and how really human beings are the nodes in that network, and things like word of mouth is just you know, taking a message and sending it from node to node, with it being repeated by each node, which are human beings deciding to repeat that messaging. And paid advertising is finding those nodes that are highly well connected, large nodes that can broadcast to a large number of other nodes, and incentivizing, paying it to broadcast a message, i.e. a payload. Messages can be so much these days. They can be, you know, fully functional programs. Websites these days are like fully functional programs. Of course, apps are too. So probably better than the term message is payload. So you've got nodes and you've got payloads, and payloads ricochet around on nodes. Some payloads that don't inherently get themselves to spread when unbundled need help. That help is advertising. And with a large enough budget, you can get the same payload broadcast over and over and over that network from the largest, most interconnected nodes until before long you want to buy the world a Coke or some Super Bowl Budweiser nonsense or whatever. And so advertising can be effective. And certainly back during, you know, the era of broadcast television and NBC, CBS, and ABC, you knew what the large interconnected nodes were. You knew exactly where to drop your payload, and you could essentially condition the entire network very efficiently because you knew where to spend your money to do so. And now with first cable television and then the internet, these channels, the connections between nodes, have been so fragmented that there's no longer the equivalent of the three big broadcast networks, unless, of course, you consider Google, with people going through search, and Apple and people going through their phone, and perhaps things like Facebook as the new broadcast networks. Tight control points over the mechanisms by which payloads are unbundled and delivered to the humans that are really the nodes. So Word of mouth is, of course, one way that you can easily visualize it, where you don't have to incentivize the node to broadcast your message. It just is inherently repeated. And so how do you do that? How do you get a payload to travel around the network by itself? Well, the number one trick is humor, and that's why viral videos tend to be funny. They are inherently valuable for their own sake because humans all recognize the value of humor. And things that make you laugh are valuable. And broadcasting those things to the network is doing the world a favor, and people like to do that. It makes it feel good. When that happens and something goes incredibly viral and there is no commercial interest behind it, no stakeholders that are benefiting by that phenomenon, they get incredibly jealous and say, why can't we do that? And every once in a while, the people capable of doing that kind of humorous payload bundling yield to the financial motivation, and they get all jib-jabbed, shall we say. And humor isn't the only way to spread messages around a network. Sometimes it's just pure quality. For example, back in 1996-97, when the web was new and navigating it was a challenge, and people used things like the Yahoo directory, now defunct, there was a need for a better way to navigate the net. And search engines came along and people used Alta Vista, and suddenly they were conditioned. Oh, there is a way. There's something that can scan the whole net and produce answers quickly to my questions. And then Google came along, and it had a little bit of humor because of that name, Google. What is that? Googling? Is it a number? Is it a verb? It's a colorful little whimsical logo combined with superior results. And those higher quality relevant results was an easy payload to send around because it was www.google.com. Easy to say, spread around the water cooler, spread in email. So Google's initial success used the old-fashioned payload message propagation around a network full of nodes, just like everything else. But once it became successful, it flipped the rules upside down, because now people like me could design a payload and just deposit it onto the network, where it would wait ready to spring up into action and step into the path of a searcher when they queried. So instead of requiring someone to be passing your message along, the network itself had the capability of holding all the messages and producing the right one at exactly the right moment in time or point of inquiry. And that's search. It was different from anything that came before it, because before it, that level or quality of search required a professional research librarian and the library to go with it, wading through tomes of data, and it took a long time. It certainly was an instant. So, you know, Google wasn't the first to do this trick. It was just one of the best that got both the quality of the payload and the ability to spread better than anyone else. Because, you know, in those days, everything was trying to become a portal. So the message was diluted. It wasn't saying, hey, search here. There was weather, there was news, there was everything mixed together on that page. You know, that was the days of Excite and Lycos and Hotbot and InfoSeek and Go. And there was just countless ones. And along comes Google, and it was just feeling lucky. So, the pendulum swings both directions. There was about 15 years of that new trick ruling the roost. Google search, text was important. Pictures weren't very important in that scenario. Now the internet gets better, the web and web browsers in particular get better. Competition comes along, people who can play Google's game, not quite as good, but nearly as good as Google in other realms like hard good delivery, that would be Amazon, and hardware design, that would be Apple. So there's people out there who can do things better than Google in ways that are incredibly valuable in that giant network that is all humans on the planet. And where does that leave us right now? Where's this whole message going, this video? Oh yeah, so I had this discussion with a coworker at work yesterday, and so everything's really the same, and whenever you don't have to pay for your messages to get broadcast, you are doing something that is like SEO or earned media or public relations or word of mouth, anything but the paid advertising. And it's better, it's harder to accomplish. When you have a superior product, you're in a better starting position to really do that. People who can produce high, that's where quality content and content marketing comes into play. You can produce something that has the capacity to spread around the network on its own, but it won't automatically do that. It's no longer, if you build it, they will come. You have to give your content that initial push to give it flight, to give it wings, to start the ricocheting going. You can have a loaded gun, but it's not going to fire until you pull the trigger. And so that's content marketing. And I guess the final point here is the most abstract one of all, and for my more traditional audience here on YouTube, and that is, with Linux, the tiny virtual machine that runs on the desktop of Macs and Windows and other Linux machines with a double click and no install, you have got a payload that can be customized with any program, any messaging you want to put in it, which in my case is Pipulate, the killer app that runs on Linux. So I have designed a useful tool that I can bundle up an entire computer, an entire virtual machine, as a node, as a payload to send out onto the network, which is the internet and humans, and it has the capacity to ricochet around. I've got some wonderful short domains, Linux.com and Pipulate.com, and it's easy to unbundle and run the payload, which in this case is a whole running computer. And then it is incredibly useful to people who are in the word of mouth or paid advertising community, because it's a tool for measuring how well you're doing, measuring your progress, pulling your KPIs down off the net, seeing your subscribers in YouTube grow, and the views on particular videos grow, and your Twitter followers grow, and to trend it, and to do it once, and to set it up with some easy single-click, setups. And then after that, it's just check your spreadsheet to see how well you're doing. And if you want to see the trending lines, build a pivot table on it, and draw the graph. And every time you go in, you can see those lines extended. It's just a remarkably elegant, beautiful solution to let you track your progress in a whole lot of fields. You could even, check your bank accounts and your stocks with such a system. It's not limited to marketing, although that's where it's most immediately useful. And I think I finally connected the dots. I've done something big and interesting, and can't wait to drop it into the network and see if it starts ricocheting. But of course, I've got to give it that little initial push. And that's what these videos are about now, building the community surrounding it during the very early days, where all this is really tough to understand because it's not going to be truly understood, and certainly not by the mainstream until it exists, is demonstratable, and is brain dead simple to use. So going into work now to finish those last steps to make that actually the case. And thanks for joining me. Hope to talk to you soon. And if you know anyone who needs to follow along, now's a good time to send them a link to this video and let them join in. Talk to you soon.